Unit 731, Japan's Human Experiment Factory. During World War II, Imperial Japan operated one of the most horrifying scientific units in history. It was known as Unit 731. Officially, it was described as a medical research division. In reality, it was a human testing facility where prisoners were treated as disposable objects. Civilians, prisoners of war, and even children were deliberately infected with plague, cholera, and anthrax. Others were frozen alive to study hypothermia. Many were dissected without anesthesia so doctors could observe organs while the victim was still alive. There was no consent. There were no survivors. Scientists referred to their human test subjects as logs, not people. Logs. When the war ended, most of those responsible were never prosecuted. Instead, their research data was secretly handed over to the United States in exchange for immunity. Unit 731 was erased from public history for decades, but its legacy remains one of the darkest examples of how science, when stripped of ethics, becomes a weapon. Nazi freezing and high-altitude experiments. Inside Nazi concentration camps, medicine became a tool of torture. At Dachau, prisoners were submerged in ice water for hours. Doctors carefully recorded body temperature, heart rate, and the moment consciousness faded. Other victims were placed in low-pressure chambers that simulated extreme altitudes. Their lungs collapsed, their brains swelled. Many died screaming or lost their sanity. The purpose was not healing, it was to gather data for the German military. The Nazis wanted to know how long pilots and soldiers could survive cold and low oxygen environments. The answers were paid for with human lives. After the war, some of this data was quietly examined by other nations, raising an ethical question that still exists today. Can knowledge gained through torture ever be justified? The experiments proved one thing clearly. Science without humanity becomes cruelty disguised as progress. The Tuskegee syphilis study, 40 years of deception. In 1932, the U.S. government launched a medical study in Tuskegee, Alabama. It would last for 40 years. Hundreds of black men with syphilis were recruited. They were told they would receive free medical care. In truth, doctors intentionally withheld treatment. Even after penicillin became widely available, researchers refused to administer it. They wanted to observe how the disease progressed naturally, until death. Men died slowly. Wives were infected. Children were born with congenital syphilis. The study only ended when a whistleblower exposed it to the press. Not because it was immoral, but because it became public. Tuskegee shattered trust in medical institutions for generations. It stands as proof that authority and science can become dangerous when transparency disappears. Soviet poison laboratories. Designing the perfect death. During the Cold War, the Soviet Union operated secret poison laboratories known as Laboratory X. Their mission was simple and terrifying. Create toxins that could kill quickly, silently, and without leaving evidence. Prisoners were forced to ingest experimental substances. Scientists observed symptoms, recorded pain levels, and measured time to death. There were no trials, no consent, no escape. The goal was not medicine, it was assassination. Some of these poisons were later used in covert operations against political enemies. Deaths were made to look natural: heart attacks, strokes, sudden illness. In this system, human beings were reduced to test data. Lives were expendable in the pursuit of invisible weapons. MK-Ultra. The CIA's mind control. Nightmare. During the Cold War, the CIA launched a secret program called MK-Ultra. Its objective was to control the human mind. Unwitting subjects were given LSD and other psychoactive drugs without their consent. Some were prisoners, some were civilians. Some never knew they were part of an experiment. Victims suffered paranoia, psychosis, and permanent psychological damage. At least one death was later linked to the program. When investigations began, most MK-Ultra documents were destroyed. The full scope of the project may never be known. MK-Ultra revealed how fear can push governments beyond ethical limits, and how secrecy allows abuse to thrive.